in 45 nations. In post-conflict countries and in new and emerging democracies, debates have helped level the playing field in places where only one party has ruled. They have forced discussion on policy issues, not personalities, and yes, they have promoted comity among political competitors, and that's comity with a T. And this effort has spawned the establishment of a global support network of similar debate organizations from nearly 40 countries, dubbed Debates International. Now I would call your attention to the Commission-sponsored Debate Watch 2020 and the participation by watch groups in all 50 states. From a hair salon owner in Cleveland Heights hosting 10 employees to the Atlantic Council hosting a global audience for more than 80,000. The goal of the Debate Watch is not to say who won or who lost, but to share views with those who agree and those who don't, to listen respectfully to each other's opinions. We are pleased that the Commission's longest-standing supporters, Judy and Peter Kovler, are in the audience tonight. For 32 years, the Judy and Peter Blum Kovler Foundation has given its trust to the nonpartisan mission of the Commission. We are deeply grateful for their belief in our work and their extraordinary contribution to the 2020 debates. It is now my distinct honor to introduce Dr. Tom Mihaljevic, President of the Cleveland Clinic, and Barbara Snyder, President of Case Western Reserve University. Thank you very much.
Good evening. On behalf of Cleveland Clinic, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the city of Cleveland. Tonight, you join us in the beautiful Sampson Pavilion of the Health Education Campus at Cleveland Clinic. We share this campus with our partners from Case Western Reserve University. This building is very special to us. It was opened just a year ago as a place for students, medical, nursing, and dental, to begin their professional journeys by learning together as teams. At that time, as we were opening this campus, none of us could have imagined that we would soon face a worldwide pandemic. When it happened, we converted this building into a COVID-19 surge hospital. The space in which you are sitting right now had 1,000 hospital beds. We called it the Hope Hospital. Thankfully, the surge did not come in Ohio. Yet tonight, this building serves another purpose, in support of our democracy, and it is a historic occasion for us and for our city. We are proud to support the Commission on Presidential Debates as their health security advisor. We at Cleveland Clinic and our 70,000 caregivers have been serving the health needs in Cleveland since 1921, nearly 100 years. Yet, our organization and our caregivers have never shone brighter than during this pandemic. The pandemic has brought out the best of our organization and our caregivers of our city and our state. Through partnership and collaboration,
Nice, buddy.
we see how much we can accomplish when we work together.
Hey, everybody.
And we are particularly
Hey, everybody in chat.
proud of our partnership
So,
with Case Western Reserve
I'm going to put
University.
myself on push to
With
talk
that, I
for
would like to introduce my colleague and friend,
Discord.
President of Case Western Reserve University, Barbara.
How is everybody? Welcome to Elder
Thank you,
Abuse.
Case Western Reserve is honored to
All right,
co-host this
we're gonna take
presidential
bets.
debate with our partners.
Hi,
at
Helen.
Cleveland
How are
Clinic,
you, hon?
And
How are
delighted
you
to show
guys?
you
I missed
the
you guys. I
spectacular
really did.
space we created together. Research has long shown that team-based healthcare leads to better outcomes.
How
for
is the sound?
patients.
Is everything okay?
Yet
Can you
nearly
guys
every
hear me?
academic institution continues to
You know,
prepare
is everything
students
fine?
in separate buildings. literally in silos. Yet
People
after
are
spending
taking
years
bets
learning
on how
only
long
with
Biden
students
will
from the same
last.
profession,
Ouch.
doctors with doctors, nurses with nurses, and so on,
Ouch.
they are
ouch,
suddenly expected
ouch,
to know
ouch.
how to work in teams once they get their diplomas. We knew there had to be a better way, and together we built it. When not filled with a stage and seats, this atrium gives hundreds of students a huge open space to study, talk, and simply be together.
Now I'm going to
The
post
entire
this on
building
all
provides
of the links.
multiple spaces for them to come together, supported by an academic model that emphasizes opportunities to learn with and from one another. Add state-of-the-art technology,
Yeah, sorry I've been away, guys.
and we
I've been
know
dealing
our
with some personal
graduates will be
shit. And
uniquely
the news has
prepared to
just been all
excel in
boring. It's
team-based
just all
care
writing
and
and
ultimately to lead it.
I don't.
Along the
I
way,
just
Cleveland
can't do
Clinic
it.
and
I
Case
just-
Western Reserve also
I
learned
can't
from
sit there
one
and
another.
fake an interest in
Among
riots.
the most
It's-
valuable lessons was that through collaboration, we
Sounds good?
achieved far
Good,
more than
good,
either
good.
of us could achieve alone. Thank you, Tom, for being such a wonderful colleague and friend. Thank you to the Commission for giving both of our organizations the opportunity to be part of this historic event. It is a true privilege to contribute to our nation's democratic process. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Tom and Barbara, very much. Most valuable player award for this evening goes to Toby Cosgrove. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. One housekeeping bit for the audience. As soon as this debate is over, if you will please remain seated, you will be shown which way to exit. And please stay where you are until that happens. I would like to now introduce Chris Wallace, the moderator
That's
of this
Ivanka.
evening's
There
debate.
she is. So, they've muted us for some reason, but it's okay. So, funny enough is I heard that Biden actually refused to get ear checked, for earwigs and stuff, because obviously they're going to try and feed him information as well as they can. Wow. Come on, Pale. Really? Hang on, guys. I have to get my mobile again. Alright. I just want to say, I am really impressed with Apple. My phone went for a trip into the wall and is literally in pieces at the moment because I need to replace it. And it still works. But I'm getting rid of my Apple phone. Yes, he did. Who? Hang on, we miss you. Who? Sorry, who is yes he did? What does yes he did do? He can't speak without teleprompters. Yeah. Oh, yes, he did. Yep. For the denying. Yeah. So yeah. Pale, you're being annoying. Alright. He can't speak without teleprompters, handlers. He's been in the Senate for 180 years. I don't know if he's that old, but I get the idea. Biden refused to get inspected for earwigs. Yes, he did. Yeah. And he also refused the drug test. That's saying something. I'm just saying. You're refusing a drug test, okay? I'm just saying. Parlay is been really annoying me at the moment because I can't seem to log in. So, I've got to go through and buy a new phone. I'm thinking about going Android and actually getting an OS that's not Android or Apple. It's called like F something. So, yeah. They're actually thinking about making a video about it. Hey, Red Panda buddy, yeah, been a while. It has. I know. I apologize, guys. I do apologize. I should make more videos. I know. 8, 9, Y. There we go. Okay, I'm in. Thank God. Thank you, Parlay. Thank you for finally working. Alright. What's new? Post that. Parlay. I still need to actually add an image on Parlay. That's how slack I am, guys. I apologize. And there's Millennia. Yeah, the whole gang is there. Yeah. Definitely one of the most attractive first ladies the US has had in a while, actually. So. I just went to click on the wrong image. Apparently I'm uploading a photo of Stargate as my display image. It's not that one. Right, there we go. Alright, I now have an image on Parlay. I'm getting organised. Look out. They're going to say Trump loses. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, totally. Totally going to do that. You know that's going to happen just as much as the next guy. And I guarantee you now, right? When the highlights for this debate come out, guaranteed, Trump is going to sound like a babbling fool. And Biden will be like sounding like he's charismatic, and that they're just going to take the good parts to go through and put out the good parts. So, yeah, like I say, it's stacked against Trump, right? But, well. Did anyone see that Jake Tapper video interview with Jill was wearing 2 different shoes? No? You got a link? You got a link, Celtic? Post it in chat, man. Look. Oh, yeah, Melina. Yeah, dude, she's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Good evening from the Health Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and
We've heard that before, have we not?
Designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate.
Oh,
the audience
God.
here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say.
Uh-huh.
No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
It's interesting that they didn't see, that's the thing. I know it's picky, okay, I know, but imagine if they brought them on separate. The applause for Trump and the applause for Biden. Can you imagine the difference?
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's
It is.
to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election.
Exactly,
So
Eric.
they were
Exactly.
stuck.
It's his right to
And
do it.
probably that would
And to
happen
be honest,
in
they're
reverse
presuming
also.
Trump's going to
Definitely would happen in
lose.
reverse. So we won the election,
So,
and we have the right to do
you
it.
know.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. And looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is. Because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy.
Ellen.
We're
The
able
fact
to-
is
we're
that
able to
Trump's
charge women
reign
more
as
for the same
president
exact
runs
procedure
from
mandate.
January
Yes.
through to January,
That ended
not
when we, in fact,
January
passed the Affordable
through
Care
to
Act.
November
And
or
there's 100
October or
million
even
people have
November.
pre-existing conditions. And
So
they'll be taken away
yeah.
as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as a say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years.
That's exactly what you said, Alan.
I'm not
He's
elected for
literally
4
quoting
years.
you right now, you
So
know.
we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that
No, I haven't. No, I
Obamacare,
haven't. I'll have to have a look at it.
and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine.
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact,
Oh, shit.
I approve. of.
Okay, I'm
Here's
going
the
to...
deal.
Oh,
The deal
ow.
is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions.
I'm going to take it back, guys.
20
Trump is
200
going to pull
million,
punches.
200,000 people that have died.
I
in
thought
his
he was
watch.
going to go easy on
How
Biden.
many
Holy
of those
shit.
have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President,
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
a
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just
don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk.
He has points.
We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they
If
want to
I-
give
if I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you
rid
an
of
opp-
the
I'm gonna-
individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was
That-
the worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
The
individual
no,
mandate was the most unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go
your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday,
I'll tell you now, Chris,
signed
he's-
a largely
he's deep
symbolic
state.
executive
He's not
order
for
to
Trump,
protect
right? We've seen the
people
interviews with him and Trump.
Pre-existing conditions.
He's definitely
5 days
deep
before this
state.
debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something.
Oh, shit,
There's
Trump.
nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be
He won't
happy.
let him
I'm
finish,
about to
will he?
pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will. I can
Sorry.
ask you the question. It will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's
did-
far left, on the manifesto,
Will
we
you-
call it.
will
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm
you
not going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat
Oh,
him a lot.
shit.
I'm here standing face
Holy
to face.
fuck,
If
Trump.
left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early,
you,
you would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal.
Trump
I got
also
very lucky.
needs
I'm
to
gonna get
learn
very
to
lucky
stop
tonight as well.
correcting.
And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go.
the wrong
Go,
night
Joe,
at the
go.
wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
Okay,
manifesto.
Trump
Let
needs
him
to stop
There is
interrupting.
no
He does need to
manifesto.
stop
Please let him
interrupting.
speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a
But-
much lower price
but-
because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as
single
you might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is, and that destroyed. That they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well, or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what
So
his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I
that's
have
cheaper
to
and
give you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since
Yeah,
he
sorry
got
to hear
elected.
about that,
He
Celtic,
has
by the
none,
way, man.
like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan.
That
He
sucks,
doesn't have
man.
a plan.
Insulin's
And the fact
400
is, this
for
man
5
doesn't
pence.
know what he's
Fuck.
talking about.
All right.
He's
I
against
have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, There has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting
He
now.
didn't answer the question,
Vote and
did
let
he?
your senators know how
you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're
answer the
senators.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you wanna put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question.
left.
Would you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list?
Oh,
Joe?
Biden.
Who's on your
so-
list?
right.
Gentlemen,
This is-
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment. Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You
But
don't
that's what a
panic.
president's supposed
You
to do,
panic.
Joe.
In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he
Trump
do
did say that.
He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools that cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we would have listened to
you have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic. Because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
No,
Wait
sir,
a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns, we got the masks, we made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
Far
no,
less
there was no
lethal
recession.
disease.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down
They
is
wanted to
because-
shut it down.
You folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation
Well,
where
they're
you
gonna go
lost
on the
your
emotional
mom or
strings now.
dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were
his
months behind me, Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all. Nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui...
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just
He
like
said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it'll
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering
is the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
I-
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine.
Yeah,
And
masks
pray
don't
God
work.
we will.
We know that.
Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with. his own scientists.
But you're saying you can't,
Everybody
or
knows.
Senator
And,
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the scientists.
No, well, no, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists that are in
By
charge.
the way,
They will have
and
the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter.
Yeah, the numbers have been inflated. We know that.
Did you use the word smart?
I'm surprised Trump didn't push back on that,
So
actually.
you
to be
said
honest.
you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's-
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See, he-
and it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits on his golf course. And, well, I mean, literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did a
get-
great
he just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe. Just for 1 second.
Oh, shit, Trump.
We want to. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election
All right,
on
I
November
want to
3rd.
move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
got to
But
respond.
those,
I
but
want to
those
move,
states,
gentlemen, I
those
want to move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants
President
to shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress,
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
well, masks make
Yeah,
a
you
big
forgot the
difference.
question,
His own
didn't he?
head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said the
no
opposite.
serious person said the opposite.
They've
no
also said, well, look
serious.
at,
All right, I wanna
Dr.
ask
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
He
got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events.
That's
with
because
nobody will show
Biden
up.
couldn't get
people
him.
with
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big
Trump.
rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. All right, put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect, and we've had 35, 40,000
All right.
people
You want
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks.
So this is the
Basically
guy
encouraging
that's
them not
pushing it back.
All right.
Ben,
He,
he's a
he
fool.
supports
If
Black
you
Lives
could
Matter
get the
protests.
crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on
Nobody
to the
cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery.
That's true.
Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is
I'm
too
surprised
much.
Biden
Should have never
didn't call
happened
a
from
lid.
China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business.
Don't know what you
We
mean
had
by call a lid.
10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week, you saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance, they can wash their hands, they can wear masks, they can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well.
Come on, Joe. What about your own words?
Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid
Well,
a total of $750 in
wrong.
taxes.
Sir,
Many
sir,
millions.
wait, no,
many-
sir, it's
It's
just
the wrong
yeah,
statement.
I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my
Trump
time
needs
back?
to learn to shut up.
The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs.
That's not a
than when he
bad thing,
became
though,
president.
Biden.
First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is
Yeah,
insisting
exactly. What about-
that
yeah,
we
what about his own
go
son?
forward and open
You know,
when you
talk
have
about billionaires
almost
and
half the
millionaires.
states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs
I
of the
agree,
American
Trump
people.
should do
so
more
we
for
can
small
open
businesses.
safely.
All right, your
I agree
time
on
is
that
up,
one.
sir. We are going to get to.
I
we're
have
gonna,
to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
Okay.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
the people of
let's-
Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going to
I
get
found
back.
out? When he took
Gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a
Yeah,
year
Hunter's
in federal
situation
income
is
tax
not good for Joe.
each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes. but
Congress
I'm
has been
asking
sitting
you the
on new money.
specific
That's
question.
true,
Is
too.
it
That
true
is
that
true.
you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very, I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand
return.
all of
But-
that.
but let
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I-
And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let
In
me just
July?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
He
that's
passed
true.
a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits like the
Yeah,
hotel
exactly.
on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired
no,
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, that put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's
But
why
everyone
I'm
does.
going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts. and
you're gonna
make sure
eliminate.
that we
Oh
invest in
wow!
the people
Holy
who, in
shit,
fact,
Joe!
need
You're
the
gonna
help.
eliminate the tracks.
People out there
the,
need help.
the tax
Why didn't
cuts
you do it over
that
20 the last 25
average
years?
people have
Because
got.
you weren't
Why didn't you do it over
because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
we're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what as the analysis done by Wall Street firms points out that my
Yeah, exactly.
economic
Even
plan
Bernie
would create
Sanders
7
declared the
million more
tax
jobs
cuts.
than his in 4 years. Number one, and number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of dollars.
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest
Yeah, it's a
recovery
Harris presidency.
since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you
Oh, yeah,
pick
they're
up a
gonna-
lot.
they're gonna
But
claim
they had
that
the
he's
slowest
mentally
economic
unfit since
recovery
if
since
Biden never wins.
1929. Let me tell
Give
you
him
about the
6
stock
months.
market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
hardly
other
any companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
$1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went
What the
in the
fuck
hole.
is Biden
Excuse me.
going on about?
Number two.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. he's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out.
Oh shit, he's
takes
going
out
there.
Billions of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it,
not.
just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
is
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that
deserve
You've asked,
$183,000?
sir,
None
you've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
that is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month
With
no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no job.
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr.
Trump
I'm listening
needs to
you.
learn to shut up.
He
He
got
does.
$3.5
I know.
testified-
I know, but he needs to shut up
testified
sometimes.
under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did
Some
a good
because
job.
some people don't
well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You
that-
get
here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families. and
Trump's right. He
ethics.
got paid
I
$3.5
don't want to do
million.
that.
As far as I
mean,
know.
his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
Exactly.
Let him go.
my family
Already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
and they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't collect
American
$3.5
people.
million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Take
that's
Not
the,
about
end
here.
of the, that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment. We're,
taken the money.
we're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I-
stood up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
That
don't get rid of
is
the
If you're-
press.
you know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're
true.
on tape
You're-
doing it.
you're gonna
You're on
have-
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than he
all right,
has.
but he does.
No
plenty.
worries, Celtic.
Well,
Thank you for
less
calling
than-
in. Have
sir,
a good
less
day.
than-
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that
Thanks for calling in.
President
I appreciate it,
Trump's
man.
response to the violence in
Yeah, he
Charlottesville
did.
3
Yeah, he
years
did.
ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is who's
Now,
who
second,
in it, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across.
They burnt down the
to a
fucking
and hold up the Bible.
church.
And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994.
There you
where
go.
he
There's
called
your
them
crime bill.
Super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time.
That's true.
Because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think
Exactly,
you have any law enforcement.
Eric.
You can't even
Remember
say the word
Biden?
law
If you
enforcement,
don't
because
vote
you say
for me,
those
you're not
words,
black.
you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you
Exactly,
believe
Alan. He's done a lot
that
for
there
the
is
black
a
community, to
separate
be
but
honest.
unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice.
Oh, come
in
on,
this
Trump,
country,
you're going to
in
push back
education,
against
work,
this. Tell me you're
and-
going to push against
in law
this, buddy.
enforcement, and the-
Come
and
on.
the way in which it's enforced.
Tell them about
But
what
look, the
actually
vast majority
happened.
of police
Do it on
officers are
national.
good,
I
decent, honorable men and
fucking
women.
dare you, Trump.
They risk their lives
National
every day to take care
TV.
of
Do
us.
it. Tell
But
them
there are
what
some
really
bad
happened.
apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call.
Mention the fact that he fired at police
an entire
first.
group
Come
of
on,
people
Trump.
at the
Do
White
it.
House,
Do
from
it.
everything from the civil rights
Wanna hear
groups
it,
to the
buddy.
police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. we're going to work this out. So we changed the way
Exactly.
in which we
Exactly,
have more
Ellen. He did.
transparency in when these things happen. Cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town
President Trump,
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people
President
all over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd
it.
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege
Hang
and
on,
critical
Trump didn't get
race
to push
theory.
back on the.
Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely
He never did push
insane,
back on that, though, did
that
he?
It was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
Is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it
radical
was totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's
Yes,
just,
they were.
He's
Oh,
the
you
racist.
you just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can
It's
defeat
rich.
racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime-
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in
it, and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law
He'll
and order.
lose his
Law
left.
and
Let
order.
him- let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're now.
is president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
We were
Mr. President,
breaking every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country, and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would
run
our
it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people
kidding,
down.
right?
We have to have
Psychologists are gonna
community
turn up now.
policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what they're talking.
that's
He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
except
about it.
listen. Look,
Name
folks,
one law
folks,
enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
They're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
Well,
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and
Right.
for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send in
interrupt-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead,
And,
sir.
and by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said.
She said that.
I don't
And so here's the
All right.
Well, here's the point.
Go ahead,
The point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking
Is
to people and
Joe
saying,
Biden
let's get
joking right
everybody
now?
together, figure out
The
how
one
to deal
riling
with this.
things up are the
What's he do?
Democrats, not-
he just pours
not Trump.
gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait,
criticized.
I have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
no,
love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you
If
saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
Not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna-
you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
Everybody
We're moving.
gives you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300.
Exactly, he's already
and
designated
hopefully
KKK not a
three
terrorist
great
group.
Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Fine, sir.
300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact
come
is
on,
that
Biden, you
I've
can't
gone
blame
head-to-head
Trump for
with
fucking
Putin
Corona,
and
man.
made it
Come
clear to
on.
him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
Not your-
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That was a
not yelling.
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know Bo.
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
Gentlemen,
my son,
And he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But hang on, didn't he just say he
All right.
didn't
He
get
wasn't
thrown
given
out?
$10 million.
He was given $10
What is it?
Totally, that's
President Trump,
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been through.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a
Gentlemen,
terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money. That report, it was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot
that,
of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your-
a lot of
your
cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that in fact is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they in fact are weatherized in a way that in fact they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart.
Yeah, he said no new fracking.
And talk about someone who has no
and that's what drove prices up. We have the same thing here in Australia.
Brazil, the rainforest of Brazil are being torn down, being ripped down.
Our power prices are through the
carbon
roof.
is absorbed in that rainforest
Because the
than every
Australian
bit of
government
carbon
decided
that's
to join
emitted in
this
the United
Paris
States.
climate
Instead
agreement.
of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in
That is
100
simply
years, if we're
not
going
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes: the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good
$100
paying
trillion.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
we
lot.
we are going to be in a position where we can create hard
I don't think
good
that was
jobs
Trump
by
that said
making
that.
sure the environment
You fart,
is
you get
clean
fined.
and we all are in better shape. We
Biden's
spend
campaign,
billions of
fart and
dollars
get
now,
fired. Yeah, pretty
billions of
much.
dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every
If he knew
building.
anything
Wait, no,
about,
no, wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen.
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
Play
Stop.
it. Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. You're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
But you
You're
would
gonna build
So I
Green New
just
Deal?
fact checked.
Pardon me?
You
I
support
just
that?
No, I
fact
don't support
checked
the Green
that.
New
You
Deal.
don't. Oh, well, that's a
So
big
it
statement.
says
I
mostly
support the
false.
left.
The radical left.
Mostly
I
false on
I
Snopes.
support
But
the
what's
Biden
true?
plan
A clip
that I
shows
put
Vice
forward.
President
Okay.
Biden
The
referring to
Biden plan,
troops as
which is
mostly
different than
stupid.
what he calls the radical.
He just
Green New
lied
Deal.
on
right, gentlemen,
fucking
final
national
segment.
TV.
Election integrity. As we meet
Biden's
tonight,
comments were
millions
made
of
in
Americans
jest.
are receiving
But he still
mail-in
fucking called
ballots
him that,
or going
right?
to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that.
Actually,
The fact is
we've
that
seen
there are
that.
going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or are you going to get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. We've caught them all.
I'll have to
We've
look
got
into
it
that,
all on
Ellen.
tape.
I
We've
haven't
caught them all.
seen-
And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
Sir,
all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
They
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
If there
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now,
do
what
is
are
you
you
go
gonna
and
do?
vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I
okay,
know your
or you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are you
like they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5 states
In fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home.
Oh, wow.
What we're saying
I'll have to
is,
look into
we're
that.
saying
I might
is
do a
that it
video
has to be
tonight about it,
postmarked
Ellen.
by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on
Yeah,
this.
exactly,
Vice
Eric.
President
The
Biden.
past 4
so
years,
wrong
they
when he makes
refused to
exactly- no,
accept
No,
it.
excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you, that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots,
Gentlemen, I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail
deception.
service delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, in the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in
a
8
disgrace.
states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a
well,
look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I
and
asked
then
you had an opportunity to
Look at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
in
see an
fact,
honest
Okay.
ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it there.
does too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
All right, so thoughts. Okay. Trump needs to learn to let Biden speak. He does need to do that, because at the end of the day, I know it's tough when you got someone spouting shit, but constantly interrupting does not help his cause. So Trump needs to do that. He needs to let him speak. Apart from that, I think Trump did well. He did better than I expected, to be honest. I was expecting Trump to go a little bit soft on him and not have the crowd there to boost him, so he might have gone a bit softer. But I was actually quite impressed with Trump being a bit of a bulldog. And Biden too. I was actually quite surprised by Biden being a bit bulldogish. Calling Trump out and stuff like that. But there's a lot of bullshit being thrown both ways. Both of them need to shut up. Both of them need to let the other one speak when they have that time. But also, Fox News, the deep state shell that he is, Chris, he was very much on Biden's support side. You could see that. Like when Trump would say something that Chris wanted to steer away from, he would change the topic. But I think Trump did really, really well. Better than I thought he was going to do. I thought he might have been a little bit low on the first attempt. Biden's a liar? Yeah, he is, yeah. Both of them are politicians. Both of them lie to a certain point. Biden just lies more. Obviously it's very rich, him sitting there going on about how, oh my son did nothing wrong in Ukraine, and then he was going on about his son's military experience, and Trump says, which one was that? And he was like, oh, it was Bo. He was like, yeah, because your other son was thrown out because of a drug problem. Oh, no, he wasn't. And then he admits he had a drug problem. Like, come on, Biden. You can't have it both ways, mate. You can't claim that he wasn't thrown out because of drugs, but then claim he has a drug problem. So, Yeah, Wallace is a goon. Yeah, he is, I know. He's a shill. He's a deep state still. I would like to see the whole Joe Rogan debate with Joe Rogan and Trump and Biden. I think that would be interesting. But, yeah. I don't know how chaotic it would be, though. But I don't know. What did you guys think? Why does the military vote mail in? Seriously, Joe. Yeah. And guys, don't do mail-in votes if you can. If you can, make sure you go. And I'm going to tell everybody now, vote in November. Because I tell you what, especially after the Supreme Court justice thing, the left are riled up. They are going to be turning out in force. Do not take advantage of the situation or think that Trump has this in the bag and don't turn up. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that can really stop Trump is his base not turning up to vote. But I don't think it's on Hunter's military record and Trump can't see it. Biden didn't think it's on Hunter's military record and Trump can't see it. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, well, we know it's true. Hey, Lee, how are ya? You've missed the debate if you just turned up. Mega 2020. Vote in person, vote Trump. Yeah, look, vote for... I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Vote for whoever you like. But, yeah, definitely vote in person. I would agree with Ellen on that one. But I don't know, guys. I was kind of impressed, actually. I thought it was a lot more advantageous than it was. I thought it was going to be a little bit more boring than it was. So I was kind of happy. But, yeah. But I don't know. Apart from that, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to try and get back to... Yeah, I keep saying that, don't I? It's just, look, at the end of the day, I don't know about you guys, but making a video on the rioting situation, I get it. It's important. I get that. But it's boring as batshit. You just got in from Louisiana. Oh, nice. Nice. I got friends down that area. But the rioting is boring as batshit to talk about. Check out Project Victus. Do you want to check them out now? Do you want me to keep going for the stream and we can watch them now? Or do you want me to just check them out tonight? You guys decide. We can watch them together if you want. I'm sort of sitting and playing games while listening to stuff, so... Project Veritas rocks. They do a good job. They definitely do a good job, that's for sure. We can check out the videos tonight if you like. Yes. You want me to watch them now? Is that what you're saying, Lee? Sorry, not Lee, Ellen. Alright, where are project videos? I have not seen these, so fair disclosure. YouTube. I haven't even seen them coming up on my recommended, so, you know, no surprise there. But then that said, even this stream on my private account wasn't showing up. So, you know, work that one out, eh? So apparently Cyberpunk has just been delayed. I called it. I called that. But anyway. Videos. Alright, so Project Veritas. 8 hours ago, 1 day ago, 1 day ago, 3 days ago, 5 days ago. Copy link. Alright.
They say voter fraud doesn't exist. They say there is no evidence. They say the evidence hasn't been substantiated. And in a world where people don't believe what they read or hear, maybe people just need to see. They'll try to ruin the reputations of those who expose them. But at the end of the day, those who try to stop us from getting the story will...
I like the quote, politics is downstream from culture. Oh, that's Breitbart, that, wasn't it? Wasn't it Breitbart? Said that?
And we,
Andrew Breitbart?
the people who are getting the story, will succeed. Stay tuned.
Okay, so that was just the trailer. So, copy link, let's watch the next one.
James O'Keefe at Project Veritas headquarters. We have just made the Drudge Report with the Libs Fear O'Keefe election sting headline, replete with a picture of me looking pensive, contemplative. This on the eve of our sting. Look at the article, Daily Beast. Thank you, Will Summer. We actually included our little advertisement for our voter fraud sting. Project Veritas plans to release a video that will offer undeniable proof of systemic voter fraud. They're very scared. If you read this article, they're talking about an investigation. I'm not sure if it's real or imagined, but they talk about in 2016 how we exposed Bob Creamer, the husband of Jan Joukowsky, close friend of Barack Obama, for talking about inciting all the Trump violence. Another article, this one is in the Kansas City Star, the editorial board. Why are the Democrats making volunteers sign non-disclosure agreements? Well, they're making them sign non-disclosure agreements because of Project Veritas. If you read this text here, they're talking about why they're doing it. They're afraid of organizations like James O'Keefe's Project Veritas and how we infiltrated Claire McCaskill's campaign. Undercover videos of the McCaskill campaign. The campaign does not want to be O'Keefed. I'm sorry to say, but There's a bunch of people about to be O'Keefed. Stay tuned.
Okay, so that was just teasers. Okay, so that's fine. So we now have this. This one's 16 minutes, so this has to be the full thing.
James O'Keefe here in downtown Minneapolis at the scene of the crime. The person you're about to meet, Liban Muhammad, aka King Liban 1, boasts about the hundreds of absentee ballots in his car. This video is one of the first of its kind. A man self-incriminating himself, bragging about all the illegal ballot harvesting that he does.
Money is everything. Money is the key in this world. If you ain't got money, you should not be here, period. You know what I'm saying? Lacag is everything. Campaign lacag baa wata. $200 iyo $100 oo waxa la yiraahdaa ayada iyo awowga iyo iska soo qaadeen. You cannot campaign that. You gotta have an investment to campaign. You gotta have a fundraisers. You gotta have waxa la yiraahdo. You gotta have the whole team. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Wajida gaariyaygu waa buuxaa. Waxaas waa absent ballot salka yaala. Soo ma jeedin. Fiiri. Waxaas oo dhan soo ma jeedin. Waa buuxaa gaariyaygu. Waa buuxa yaala. Waxaas kullu waa Jamaal Cusmaan way. Fiiri. Fiiri. 300 kaliya maanta soo dhacday oo Jamaal Cusmaan. Ya. Ciidamada hogaaminaysa Aamino. Aamino maxaa leedahay? Waa lagu kala baxay Soomaa meesha. Aad weyn. waa jeneraal ciidamada hogaaminaysa weeye sida ay ula socotaan yaa ilaahay haata shaqadu waa socotaa adeer saaka 6 baan bilownay ilaahay haatana waa wadnaa waa noo jeedaa saacadana waa u jeedaan waa ay horeysa saacadayda oo bixinay 2 in the morning still hustling 2 in the morning still hustling.
I think he was both Ilhan Omar and Jamal, but I think he was more with Ilhan Omar. My name is Omar, O-M-A-R, Jamal, J-A-M-A-L. I'm right now...
So I just want to rewind this because I missed that.
هذا وين؟ waa jeneraal ciidamada hogaaminaysa weeye sida ay ula socotaan yaa ilaahay haata shaqadu waa socotaa adeer saaka 6 baan bilownay ilaahay haatana waa wadnaa waa noo jeedaa saacadana waa u jeedaan waa ay horeysa saacadayda oo bixinay 2 in the morning still hustling 2 in the morning still hustling
2 in the morning still working and collecting absentee ballots.
I think he was both Ilhan Omar and Jamal, but I think he was more with Ilhan Omar. My name is Omar, O-M-A-R, Jamal, J-A-M-A-L. I'm right now part of the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, but also I'm the chair of the Somali Watchdog Group, and I have been involved in the community for the last 20 years.
Omar Jamal is the latest brave Project Veritas insider to come forward and expose a voter fraud scheme in Minnesota that will shock you.
Well, I want to be part of this investigation because of ongoing election fraud that we feel that we should bring to the attention of everyone. Therefore, chances are we can do something about it.
When we spoke with Omar Jamal, he actually repeated our PV insider motto, be brave.
Do something about it.
Omar Jamal secretly recorded conversations with the players involved in the voter fraud scheme to expose the criminal behavior he says is victimizing his own community and the integrity of the election process.
Liban didn't get it in a unique way. He just got them the way that everybody before him or even maybe even after him will do, which is go to the elders, probably maybe pay them and collect, help, to their men. He's helping them. So I think that's the process of collecting from the seniors from their buildings.
There was video. You can see the video. There was a video out and about that he has the ballots in his car.
Right.
And talking about the only way you can win is with money.
She uses money, and he's one of many people. He's not the only one who works for her. He was talking to his opponents and other people, saying that, you know what, here we are. You know, he was just boosting. You know,
he said, I have 300, and he had them in his hand. Got it right here.
Like a cash. Like cash.
Like,
so question, have you ever asked yourself, how did he get them?
Yeah, how did he get them?
You just don't go and, like, I was looking at them, and they were not filled. They were blank.
Right, some were open.
Yeah. In an envelope still.
Who was the one filling out the absentee ballots for you?
kuwa ka shaqeeya campaignka iyagaa noo dira marka waa ka soconaya
People who work with like Ilhan Omar and other candidates work for them.
Ilhan dadaa la shaqeeya Soomaali ah.
Ilhan has a handful of people that work for her.
Way noo yimaadeen guriga noogu yimaadaan.
They came to us to our apartments.
Waxay dhahaan sanadkan Ilhan aad u codaynaysaa.
And they tell us that this year you're gonna vote for Ilhan.
Waxay ku leeyihiin absentee ballot aan ku sameynaa waan ku bixinaynaa form marka dalka kuu soo dhacdo annaga haddana buuxinayna waa dirayna adiga guriga iska joog meesha ma aadaysid.
You don't go nowhere, you stay home, we will go fill out for your absentee ballot. When it comes, we'll come and get it. You just not go nowhere, you stay here.
Marka marka soo dhacdo iyagaa noo calaamaday Ilhan waa
They fill it for us.
kadibna iyagaa noo saxiixa iyagaa bashqad kulida way diraan.
And then they do it, but by themselves.
Where do they pay the money?
lacagta xagee ku bixiyaan?
lacagta markaan codka saxiixano oo warqadda naga buuxsadaan markaas lacagta na siiyaan.
The minute we sign the thing for the election, that's what you get paid.
I think.
Okay, this is bad. Whoa. Am I getting this right? Hang on, okay. Chat, am I getting this right? So they're paying people... No worries, Eric. Thanks, buddy. So they're paying people to go through and to give them the absentee ballots so that the Ilmar's group can then fill them out to the way they want them to be filled out. Is that what they're doing? Have I got that right, Ellen? Is that right? Holy shit. You know, I just want to say, I normally keep up with Project Veritas because it comes up on my subscriptions and stuff like that. I have not seen any of these videos for the past 3 days. And I keep checking. I might make videos every day, but I'm still watching all the news I can. It's illegal. It is. Yeah, it's voter what do they call it? Voter harvesting or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely illegal. That's shit. These videos are not showing up on my subscription feed. I wonder why.
The purpose of collecting the ballots is to make sure that you fill them out and you make sure that the person you want get in there.
Wow. They fight you if you speak up.
Wow.
Like what? Like what can I do? Like get jumped? Hell no. I ain't going. No, I'm good.
Okay, let me talk to you. Yeah. And I got money too. So if I gotta get them out to the polls, I'll get them to the polls. Okay. Just don't forget me. I need some money. You know, it's all over.
I got you.
Listen.
I'm gonna hook you up with the top.
All right.
I'm working with Jamal Osman. Jamal Osman is running the city council in Minneapolis.
Right.
That's my young brother.
Videos saying that the only way to win is money. And what was the other one? He said it was money.
Our source inside the Somali community explains that as soon as early voting occurs, that's when ballot harvesting of the elderly happens. And one of the places it happens is at Cedar Riverside Apartments here in Minneapolis.
At the end of this street,
yes,
there's 3 towers called One Towers.
Okay.
And it's all seniors, and they took every ballot.
Every ballot. They just take them from them.
Every single ballot. They knock on the door and say, your ballots come, give it to me, give it to me.
They don't even pay them for it. They just take it.
No. And the ones that didn't vote on ballots, the young people, and the women and stuff, they were paying cash. They were getting bags of money the last 1 week here to drive people. And when you vote and they mark you off, then you get in the van, they give you the cash. The money was brought by Ali Ghani. Ali Ghani is the campaign chair of Ilhan. He's a staffer in her office.
Ali
Ghani was coordinating everything.
Ali is who's deputy director for Ilhan Omar here in Minneapolis, is part of people who are using cash to get votes and use that to make sure that he wins the election. He's very active in the community and making sure that whatever it takes to get her elected by any means necessary.
Based upon our undercover reporting, U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, also affectionately known as a member of the Squad, and her campaign may be behind one of the biggest voter fraud schemes in American history. But this time, we have it on tape.
The person who's working in Ilhan's campaign is the one who's managing the voting place. They bring them, they line them, they put the open ballots in there, and then they take them in and say, here. And the people mark. How's that working? They have perfected this system. This is what they do. They will tell you, we are applying for your ballot. They take a picture of your social security and your driver's license. They have a database. When the ballot comes, they track it. Sometimes they make fake emails. They track the ballot. Then they come and pick up the ballot.
Wow. So they
unopened.
Wow.
So there's a vested interest, but we are victims of the system. They don't give a shit about any Somali issue. Sorry to use my language.
No, you're right.
And the DFL wants to win this state at all costs. It's a mutually beneficial, and the victims is the Somali.
We have to understand that the immigrants, mostly here now, are first-generation immigrants. They are still, most of them are still emotionally connected to where they came from, and because of their background, not knowing how elections work, they came from military governments. That's the only system that they know. And when they get here, because of their ignorance, not knowing how all things work, sometimes they even think it's illegal.
Now, our sources say that Ilhan Omar is actually exploiting members of her own Somali community in Ward 6, which is the epicenter of where these alleged voter fraud activities take place.
It's not right that there's, corruption. It's pretty much an alliance between clans and the progressive left in the city of Minneapolis, because you have a specific family, which Abdi Warsame, Mahmoud Noor, Ilhan, Jamal Usman, who just got re-elected, or should I say elected for city Ward 6, all are in the same cousin family. Like it's clan-oriented.
Liban Muhammad's video shows him violating Minnesota election laws, which prohibit someone from collecting more than 3 ballots. It's also a violation of federal law. For anyone who votes for others illegally, this is the law. 52 U.S.C. 10307, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine.
Numbers don't lie. Waa ujeedaan gaarigaygu waa buuxaa. Waxaas waa absent ballot salka yaala. Soo ma jeedin? Fiiri, waxaasoo dhan soo ma jeedin? Waa buuxaa gaarigayga. Waa buuxa yaala. Waxaas kulli waa Jamal Usman wey. Fiiri. 300 kaliya maanta soo dhacday oo Jamal Usman. Yeah.
There was video. You can see the video. There was a video out and about that he has the ballots in his car.
Right.
And talking about the only way you can win is with money. So he's basically saying that.
Admitting that.
Right. Yeah, admitting that. So.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
He took it down. But you captured it.
You saw the video?
I saw the video. And he took it down, but I captured it. Get out of here. What?
Did you really see the video?
I captured the video. Captured that video. It's a beautiful video.
I told you. Things like that, though. That's what's going on.
He said, I have 300, and he had them in his hand. Got it right here.
Like a cash. So question, have you ever asked yourself, how did he get them?
Yeah, how did he get them?
You just don't go. And, I was looking at them, and they were not filled. They were blank.
Right. Some were open.
Yeah. In an envelope still.
It's an open secret. It's not something that, you know, she will do anything that she can to get elected, and she has hundreds of people on the streets doing that.
Our sources say that Ilhan Omar's voter fraud machine appears to be much more than just a few foot soldiers like Liban Mohammed's ballot harvesting. This appears to be an effort that is very systemic and very coordinated.
Hundreds of people have come that do not live here. And then they're saying that it's only 30 days they have to live here. These people are collecting benefits elsewhere, housing elsewhere, living in other places. And the DFL knows everything. They just want the numbers. Truck drivers are coming, getting temporary addresses. There needs to be a database of where are these people coming from. They don't live in Minnesota. We don't have hundreds of Somalis lining up every day for balloting.
No.
Where are they coming from? And as soon as this election is done, the people will go back to their normal lives.
It doesn't matter. It's over.
It's over. They're accepting temporary addresses. They're accepting all kind of shenanigans. People are showing an ID. I moved 30 days ago. My ID has not come back. Okay, just give us the last 4 of your social and tell us the address. And then somebody else will say, yeah, the same people who are helping them vote are saying, yeah, I can vouch for this
That's
address.
it. The vouch thing. I saw that. They're vouching now.
Or they can have someone vouch for them that lives in the same ward and precinct.
That's what I'm talking about, the person vouching for them. Now, where do I find out who vouched for these people, these 8 people that live in one house?
You know that those people were vouched for.
There's no way 8 people live in that one house. That's a little tiny house.
It's not only her, it's all this, you know, DFL machine. No, this is a DFL machine that's, you know, in full operation in the state of Minnesota. And if you don't do it the way that you need to do it, then you just better get the hell out of the state.
Now you may ask yourself, how is voter fraud of this scale, of this magnitude, how does this voter fraud go unchecked?
So there you go. So that's the type of beautiful thing that's going on. And I find that interesting. And the Republican Party is just sleeping on that.
Why didn't they do anything about that video?
They can't, because that video, here's what's going on with the video, right? The video basically doesn't, how do you say this? Does he say at any time in the video that he aligns himself with Jamal Usman?
Yeah.
He does?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gone now.
So if that video at any given time does say he does align with Jamal Usman, then the state can do something about that.
It's not right that there's, you know, corruption. It's pretty much an alliance between clans and the progressive left in the city of Minneapolis.
Well, I'm afraid if it's already too big to stop, you know, maybe it's too late. Maybe it's already too big to stop. There's a lot of people invested in this, you know, and they don't care how they did it. We win, and that's it. If American people don't pay attention to what's happening, it is gonna soon, the country will collapse. The rules and regulations, if you ignore that and you let corruption and fraud become a daily business, and then tough luck, the country will not exist as they know it.
Now the only question is, what does Congressman Ilhan Omar have to say for herself? That her deputy, Ali Ethe, is apparently a central figure in all this fraud. So the question is, what does the Attorney General of Minnesota have to say about this? What is the county attorney here in Minneapolis? What is he going to do about this? And finally, what does the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr, intend to do about this massive criminal voter fraud caught irrefutably on videotape? Oh, and we're not done. Stay tuned for part 2.
Oh shit. Okay, so before we jump into part 2, question. What has happened about this? See ya, Lee. What has happened? What has been the outcome of this? You need to watch them. Yeah, I am watching them. Yeah, I am. And that's per count. So, what has Barr done anything about this? I know Trump brought it up today, but what has been done? That's the question. This is bad. This is really bad. This is a huge sting for Project Veritas. This is huge for them to get this on tape. Is investigating? Good. Okay, good. Good. I have not heard about this at the moment. I've heard rumours of it. I haven't looked into it. So let's jump into the second one.
James O'Keefe back here on the ground in Minneapolis. Our undercover journalists at Project Veritas have just exposed a voter fraud ring so widespread that many members of the Somali community here consider it an open secret. Many believe if this corruption continues, there'll be no more free elections, and our sources inside the Somali community here allege that the architect of this pay-for-vote scheme is none other than U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Your focus is winning, no matter what you do. You ignore the rules and regulations. There's no moral and ethics here. It's just the end will justify the means.
Project Veritas has received an explosive piece of tape. The tape you're about to see shows a man buying a registration form for an absentee ballot from a voter, giving him, quote, pocket money, unquote, of $200 and expecting to collect his ballot when the voter receives it. In this next tape, we hear from another ballot harvester who tells us how much money he receives for his illegal activities. Activities he says he doesn't care are illegal. Omar Jamal is the latest Project Veritas insider. He secretly recorded dozens of conversations in and around the Somali community in Minneapolis to expose a rampant voter fraud scheme.
I think Ilhan Omar is one of the people who are behind all this mess, and they have a lot of people that work for them that make sure that tasks get carried out, ballots collected, there's a cash money exchanging hands. It's an open secret that everybody knows it, but they don't talk about it.
Will they do it again for the next election, general election?
Yeah, November. Yeah, November is actually they're gearing up for November, yes. 80,000 of immigrants' votes will swing this election to one side. And then they became very important. They became the focus of this, and millions of dollars are spent to make sure that these 80 or 100,000 of immigrant votes go one way. So it will make a difference.
It's expensive, why? How many?
Yeah, well, Minnesota is one of the major states that you have to win. Trump won Minnesota, I believe, in 2016, right? 2016. So, at the end of the day, it makes sense that they're focusing on Minnesota so much, because without Minnesota, his chances of winning diminish slightly. So it makes sense they're going after Minnesota.
40 people.
This election now, they'll spend millions of dollars. It costs a lot. It's huge money.
How much?
200 to $300 is the compensation.
Yeah.
Some of the techniques that he uses is to exchange money for vote, and that's not a secret. It's open and everybody knows about it.
She's the one who came up with all this. The community, she's the one. Somehow. Nobody knew about, yeah, this is something like new within her.
So she did it. She
Yeah.
started this whole thing with the pay to vote.
Yeah.
Through our undercover reporting, we have discovered yet another person who claims he was paid hundreds of dollars in a pay-to-vote election fraud ring. His name is Osman Ali Dakwan, and he alleges both Ilhan Omar and possibly even her opponent in the last primary each tried to game the system in a pay-to-win scenario.
Where is the money coming from? November Yeah, November is actually they're gearing up for November, yes.
80,000 of immigrants' votes will swing this election to one side.
God damn it, I keep hitting
And
the
then
wrong
they
button.
became very important. They became the focus of this, and millions of dollars are spent to make sure that this 80 or 100,000 of immigrant votes go one way. So it will make a difference.
It's expensive wine. How many? 40 people.
This election now, they'll spend millions of dollars. It costs a lot. It's huge money.
Yeah. How much? 200, 300.
$200 to $300 is the compensation.
Yeah.
Some of the techniques that he uses is to exchange money for vote, and that's not a secret. It's open and everybody knows about it.
She's the one who came up with all this. The community, she's the one. Somehow. Nobody knew about, yeah, this is something like new within her.
So she did it. She
Yeah.
started this whole thing with the pay to vote.
Yeah.
Through our undercover reporting, we have discovered yet another person who claims he was paid hundreds of dollars in a pay-to-vote election fraud ring. His name is Osman Ali Dakwan, and he alleges both Ilhan Omar and possibly even her opponent in the last primary each tried to game the system in a pay-to-win scenario.
Where is the money coming from? Ayaga ugu lacag badnaa.
laakiin asaga lacagta inta laga qaato ay ilhaan loogu shubay taas anaa ka dambeeyey inuu iska lacagta ka qaato hadduu ilhaan ogeey
Ilaan lacag ma bixinayseed. Ilaan lacag ma bixinayseed.
ha laakiin meel qaldan ay ku bixinaysa
Jamal Usman or City Council.
yes
The more election you win, the more powerful you will become. The more fundraising, the money you will get. The more money you get, the more you can buy people. It's all tied together.
lacag qaadanaya anaga take money waan ku fogeynaa
But that's illegal, why?
we don't care illegal annaga ma ahan qofka oo illegal sameynaya an lacag lii keenay odayaa lii aniga iyo oday
Your focus is winning no matter what you do. You ignore the rules and regulations. There's no moral and ethics here. It's just the end will justify the means.
Osman clearly has a blatant disregard for the American political process, doesn't fear the illegalities of his actions, so much so that he casually mentions having to pay off Al-Shabaab, aka Al-Qaeda, to open a business back home in Mogadishu.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
iyo waraaqda waxaan ku codsanayaa laysin aan ku haysto in xagga la iga siiyo saarda arrimaha gudaha very expensive $2,000 waa bas waraaqdii oo shaabadaysanaan sugaya haddana al-shabaab ay ii siyaareen al-shabaab kuna iga rabaa
Osman Ali says even the election judges are in on it.
marka election judgeska waqtigooda waa la siiyaa
Yes.
marka judgeska la siinaa lacagta
Judgeska ayaga waxa kala diray ayaga corruption.
election judges
Ilhan's people count the ballots?
Everything. So the people who are actually sitting, working, are the same people. They shouldn't have those same people doing all the job.
So the people that work for Ilhan are actually counting the ballots, counting the vote,
And they become a manager in the prison too.
and manage the precinct.
Yes. Progressives, yes.
So they do all of it.
They do all of it. They do it all. They do all of it.
Well, not only Somali community, American people, it looks like if they're interested in continuation of the institution of this country, if they're interested in keeping this country intact, I think one of the things to do is to make sure that people at least live up to the basic tenets of the constitution of this country. You know, basic rules of morals and ethics. If you ignore that, then soon the house is going to collapse. You know, if you don't do that, then there's nothing else left.
Even Osman, who is profiting from the pay-to-vote scheme, is able to reconcile with the simple fact that if criminals aren't arrested and held accountable for the wrongdoings, they'll never stop because they have no reason to fear.
Why?
You continue sana this year I'm a city of Minneapolis marka madawin jooga. They're corrupt.
ma baqaaniyaan miyay
ilaa la xiro dad ma baqayaan
ya
ilaa dad la xiro oo lagu eedeeyo lagu muddo iraniya lacagtaana bixisa they are in trouble
big one
they are in trouble big trouble
Osman isn't the only person we found during our investigation who admits to being paid, but not all were as enthusiastic about their involvement in the pay-for-vote scheme.
Ilhan has a handful of people that work for her. They came to us to our apartments. And they tell us that this year they're going to vote for Ilhan.
Do you know if they come directly from Ilhan Omar's campaign?
Yes, because the T-shirts, they're not hiding.
Do they let people know that they're with Ilhan's campaign when they're?
People obviously know.
They all know.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows in the community.
As you've heard from our sources, some in the Somali community feel strong-armed and imposed upon Ilhan's crew. Beyond the alleged confiscation of absentee ballots, we've also heard they may go as far as voting for them at the polling station.
They will make sure that you vote, and then when you do that, on the way back, right home, you can give you the money in the car.
How do they make sure you voted for Ilhan Omar?
Say ina ida u voteres. They help us because at the voting booth they allow interpreter.
At the voting booth, they allow them to help you vote.
Yeah.
So they walk up to the booth with you and they vote with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go inside with us and they help us and they actually do that inside there.
So inside the booth, the person goes in and actually votes for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So you never even get a chance to vote. Does he never really votes? It's the other person.
Yeah, they actually the ones who vote. People don't usually. Yeah, they do the voting.
They're standing outside. Jamal Usman's team and other teams are standing there. They walk with you to the booth, and then they vote. Oh, vote this guy. Vote this guy. Vote this guy. Vote even if you speak English.
Wow. So how do they get away with it at the voting center? Why does nobody complain at the voting center that you're letting these people do this? Everybody just lets you go.
Federal law says anyone who votes for others is violating 52 U.S.C. 10307, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. The law is clear. Buying votes is illegal.
Spent over $250,000 on this election.
Wow.
That kind of crazy.
Just handing it out. They got that much cash. It's out.
This is a big business because look, this girl's gonna propose how to end the money to Israel. Ali Gene and the owner of the mall and Ilhan's campaign, the cash was coming from this guy because the money was being paid in home.
He's Palestinian.
Yeah. He's financing this whole thing. The reason she's fighting for Palestine is because of this guy.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's pulling the strings.
Yeah. So it's all about money and power. And they want her to defend the Israel money.
That's all this is about.
That's what that's about.
I hope the state, the governor, and the attorney general will take this issue very serious. Now we know it's out there. Now we know it's public. And I hope they will investigate and look into this in a very serious way. And I also hope that the U.S. attorney, the federal level, and even the FBI might come and look into this, because this, cannot continue the way it is. It's simply wrong and illegal.
If the strong-arming tactics of Ilhan's crew prove to be true, it is a complete violation of basic human rights. From our reporting in the field, the community seems to be fully aware that Ilhan Omar's campaign is connected to a voter fraud ring that operates with impunity. So this raises questions. Why hasn't the Attorney General Keith Ellison looked into this? Is the head of the DFL, Ken Martin, turning a blind eye to this blatant corruption? Does Ilhan Omar yield this much power? If so, why? Should we be worried that unknown powerful people hold leverage over her?
So we know Ilmar is against Israel. This is kind of making a lot of sense. Now we know why she's against Israel. Yeah, no worries. I might watch the third video later. So I might jump off it myself. There's a lot to digest in this, so I'm going to have to think about all this, and I'm going to do a video about it. So, thank you, Ellen. Thank you for the hit. But, yeah, I might do a video tonight about this voter fraud. Alright guys, we're going to end the stream there. Thank you everybody who did turn up today. Thank you everybody who stayed in and who watched the debates with us. We will be continuing doing these throughout the next few months. We will be doing the Vice President one next week, I believe. It's a week from tomorrow. So we'll be doing that. And apart from that, guys, have a great night. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you everybody who came. Have a great night. Enjoy. And I'm going to have to look into this voter fraud. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks.